have to be careful when I'm driving, because the worst name I have on your driver's license when you get pulled over for speeding is the name Kwik. And I get to do my dharma in life, which is teaching people to learn quicker, to focus and concentrate better, to remember things more rapidly, to learn facts, figures, foreign languages, you name it. So right now, you're going to see my eyes dart a little bit around, because we are going to be hopefully broadcasting on our private Facebook page, which has 120,000 members. That's absolutely free. You should see the testimonials that are there. Most of you are actually consuming this through our app. And if you're not part of our app, you should download it. It's absolutely free. It's in our Instagram profile. And we are going to get set up. You're in LA, can't see your video. Should be able to see our video. Everyone can see me, right? All right, so in this session, for about a little less than an hour, I'm gonna really deconstruct what it takes to have a great mind, specifically around your memory. So I highly recommend that you join as long as you can. Highly recommend you take some notes, and we'll do some thera. I just turned on Instagram also. We have over 1,000 people watching here. We have, as you see, a lot of people watching on Zoom also as well. And let's go. So my mission in life is to help you to have the brain that you desire and that you really deserve. That's it. I want to have a positive impact on your brain, because your life gets so much easier when you understand how to use this 3-pound matter called your brain, right? Your mind. And I'm not going to make a distinction on between those two things. But here's the thing, we're not taught how to access it. So my mission in life is to help build better brains. I believe you change your brain, you change your life. You change your brain, you change your world, right? So everything is going to come out of here, right? You want to follow your heart, but you want to bring your brain. And so what I want to do is give you some tips, really practical ways to be able to access more of that potential power. Now, we use all of our brain. Let's be very clear. We use all of our brain like we use all of our body, most of us, right? It's just some people are just access more their potential because they've trained their body. They use it more efficiently. If they were going to climb Runyon Canyon, and if they're really fit, they could do it without breaking a sweat, maybe. But it's if you're not conditioned for it, it might take extra work. If you're not trained for it, well, I want you to be able to do that, and to be able to train your brain. There's no such thing as a good or bad brain. There's a trained brain and an untrained brain. There's no such thing as a good or bad memory. There's a trained memory and an untrained memory. And that's my mission. And how do we go about our mission? No Brain Left Behind is through our podcast. How many of you listen to our podcast? You could, or subscribe to our YouTube channel. By the way, people don't know this. We put all our podcasts are 20 minutes or less. It's one of the most binge listened show on iTunes and also Spotify, because there's no sponsors. Not that we have anything against advertisers and stuff, but I appreciate your help getting this out to people. We have over 4,000 5-star ratings on iTunes. Thank you. How we also do it through our book. How many of you purchased Limitless? Can I get a kind of a show of hands? The book, God bless, over 11,000 ratings on Amazon, which is amazing. Thank you for that. After just a little over a year. So we do it through our podcast, our book, also on our videos. On YouTube, we put the interviews and the content beyond 20 minutes. So I highly recommend you do that. It's not edited, so you could also access there. All the links are in my Instagram profile. So I highly recommend. And also there's a 3-part video series on memory where I actually take people and put them on stage, and I show you how to remember their names. In my Instagram profile, just go to jimkwik.com/more. Maybe you could type it in the chat, jimkwik.com/more. If you go there, you could also get a free masterclass on speed reading, right? So 95% of the stuff we publish is absolutely complimentary. I believe you learn to earn to be able to return. And the greatest gift you could give somebody is the gift of their own growth, right? That's what more of us need to be able to do. We shouldn't be shrinking down and dimming our light because it's shining in somebody else's eyes. Now's the time to burn bright, right? And inspire others through our example. I believe the life we live are the lessons you teach. You learn to earn, to return. And you don't give to get, right? You give because it's just who you are. So let's get into some of these strategies. And I'm going to also... So I'll pin this comment. Thank you. jimkwik.com/more. And maybe all I ask is that if you get value from our work, please share it or review it. right? Give an honest review, because your stories make a difference. You'll see in our private Facebook group, and especially in our app, there are literally dozens of stories that people publish every single day, before and after, of what happened to their life. And then not just they're reading faster or learning languages or remembering people's names, but it's just they're believing in themselves again, right? They found some hope, a guide. And I think we're all guiding each other home, right? And that's how that home place is remembering. For those of you who saw, anyone see Shang-Chi, the new Marvel movie that's out? This is not a spoiler, but there's two words I just want to highlight that was done really subtly. I don't think anyone really just kind of picked it up. It was this. I don't know who needs to hear this. It said, "Stop hiding." What are you hiding from right now? And I think a lot of people are hiding from their own potential. And so, I love. We should do a whole YouTube channel just on deconstructing superhero and martial arts movies. If you see my shirts as I train superheroes, because I think you are the superhero. Even in Limitless, remember this. Use this as a guide for your own personal growth. In Limitless, I take you through the 5 stages of Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, and I want you to be Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. I could be your fairy godmother, right? I want you to be Luke and Leia Skywalker, and I could be your Yoda, if you will. And I have a little baby Yoda. We teach kids classes, and I just feel like that we need that light right now, right? How do we become limitless in a limited world? We do it together. So let's get into this. So how do you improve your memory, and how important is it? And we'll turn this into a master class. I'll riff for about 15, 20 minutes. And really what I want to do is answer your question that you have. Dawn, I love baby Yoda. I have all these Jedi books. I'll give you a tour sometime in my library. I never in a million years, my teachers would have been surprised if I ever read a book, much less wrote a book. So let's go into it. First of all, take notes, right? How many of you prefer to handwrite notes? How many of you prefer to do digital note taking? Just tell me, and you could post it here. Handwrite. Wow, a lot of handwriting notes. Okay. How plastic is your brain after 30? I'll talk about that today. So actually, when students are tested, okay, so we have a lot of people going back to school, and so let's make this about a little masterclass on recall. The other way people experience our training, not only through our free podcast, our book, which was one of Amazon's hot picks last week, and thank you for everyone who made that happen. It hit the Wall Street Journal again last week, bestseller list. Our podcast, our YouTube channels, our courses. We have 21 30-day courses to help you change the habit, to take the tips that we put into a podcast and turn it into real training, because there's a difference between tips and training, right? But when students, let's say you have to study for work, you have to study for school. First, handwriting notes has actually been shown to help your comprehension and your retention. Digital is great. It's great for storage. It's great for, I love you too. It's great for sharing information, but I always recommend handwriting notes first. And one of the reasons why, just search Jim Kwik, how to take notes, and you'll see a number of podcasts that we did on it, is because you could type pretty fast. A lot of you could type almost as fast as I could speak. But you can't write that fast. And so it forces you to filter information. It forces you to qualify information. So as you're integrating it, you actually prioritize. And remember this, the most important thing is to keep the most important thing the most important thing. I'll say that again. The most important thing is to keep the most important things the most important things. Yes, capture and create. So what you do is the left side, I want you to take a piece of paper, put a line right down the page. On the left side, you capture. On the right side, you create. Now, this is a whole brain note-taking method that I found that anybody could do. While we teach mind mapping by Tony Buzan and a lot of other different note-taking techniques, put a line down the page. Left side is left brain note-taking. Right side is right brain note-taking. And so left side, you're taking notes. On the right side, you're making notes, because it's not just about consuming. Yes, you can write down how to remember names and learn languages and whatever questions for remember what you read on the left side. But on the right side, if your imagination is going to distract you, put it on the right side of the page. How am I going to use this? How does this relate to what I already know? What questions do I have for Jim during the Q&A? When am I going to use this, right? The three most important questions to ask, I teach dominant questions to take knowledge and turn into real power. Share this also, please, if you're watching this on Instagram or wherever you're watching this. If you want to take a screenshot and post it, I'll repost some of our favorites and share one thing you're doing for a better brain. And that's a question I ask all the time. One of my dominant questions is this good for my brain or is this bad for my brain? I got that from Dr. Daniel Amen. I've had 3 traumatic brain injuries before the age of 12, and he was a big part of my recovery. How many of you are familiar with Change Your Brain, Change Your Life, which is an amazing book? Tony Robbins. Yeah, I spoke at Tony's Platinum group last year also as well. So many great resources, and that's what we're here. We're here to up-level each other, right? And so shoulder to shoulder, walking each other on this path. And what's the path? This journey to realize and reveal our fullest potential. So capture and create. Your note-taking and your note-making. So let's go into this part of the memory, all right? And then I'm gonna answer some of your questions. All right, so first of all, do this. Shake out your hand. Everyone do this. Caitlin, Dr. Amen spoke at your firm's 2019 and 2020 kickoff. That's amazing. All right, so everyone shake your hand like this. Make a fist. Put it to your chin. No, where's your chin? All right, so the first part of having a better memory is really about, it's your intention. Your intention should be retention. A lot of us forget people's names because we never have any intention of remembering somebody's name. Does that make sense? It's so subtle, but your intent matters. My friend has a company, a brand called myintent.org. Amazing. And, it just has your one word intent. Mine happens to be limitless because I felt very limited as a kid with my traumatic brain injuries and my learning difficulties. But what I would say is, going back to this, your intention matters, right? And so have an intention for retention. Your memory is a huge force multiplier. Memory will make you money. It just will. I've been teaching this now 3 decades, 30 years. We have students in our online courses. How many of you are in our online courses, have taken our memory program? Please share. Like if it's been supportive, thank you. Christina, Lydia, thank you so much. Josephine, Misty, Martha. These are our students, right? And every month, as a bonus, I come in and I do these lives for our students around the world because, you don't have to do this alone. When I was learning this stuff, they didn't have a lot of resources, and I don't want you to, this is embarrassing, but it's also something I'm proud of now. I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to learn what I learned, starting at age 18. And you don't have to spend 30 years and all that money to learn this stuff because honestly, I did most of the work for you. And my goal is to give you these quick, digestible bites of information so that you could learn one thing, a small, simple step. Thinking is good, but overthinking and wanting things to be perfect will stop your progress before it even starts, right? And it's the elusive obvious. I did a podcast, if you search Jim Kwik Unstuck, like how to get unstuck. And we've done almost 250 episodes. Every single one, again, no sponsors. We funded ourselves. It's part of our mission. We donated 100% of the book proceeds. So all of you that bought a book, Aaron, my husband and I love all your trainings. We appreciate you. I appreciate you too. Appreciation is, we did a Thanksgiving episode. You're like, Jim, you're all over the place. I talk really fast, but this is stream of consciousness, right? This is what we do in this live. You don't have to wait for a greater life to feel grateful. If you feel grateful, you'll immediately have a greater life. Thank you for posting the How to Get Unstuck, Lauren. And that's what we're here to do. We're able to up-level each other, right? If I give you $1, you give me $1, honestly, so what? Nothing changes. But if I share an idea with you, you share an idea with us, all of a sudden we have brand new ideas or brand new insights or brand new instructions. And you're like, Jim, you alliterate a lot. It's just how my mind goes. I might be like very OCD about that, very neurotypical. I just have to alliterate everything to make it memorable. But in that one about how many of you feel a little stuck, like you're stuck in a box? You're like, you're not making progress in some area. I can tell you, your memory will unlock that. I believe 2 of the most costly words in our life and sometimes at work are I forgot. Think about the damage it costs. I forgot how much time you lose, credibility, trust. I forgot I forgot to do it. I forgot that conversation. I forgot what I was going to say. I was on the tip of my tongue, right? I forgot that person's name. I believe every time we have those thoughts, we could lose credibility. We could lose sales. So in How to Get Unstuck, I talk about a story where a driver is not paying attention and he's driving a really tall truck, and the driver goes underneath a bridge and gets stuck because the truck is just too tall. And the more and more that the truck driver tries to press on the gas, the more stuck the truck becomes. And sometimes we do that, don't we? We're like trying to put more effort into something to get unstuck, and it actually sometimes makes it worse. And what we resist tends to persist. And there was a huge crowd that started to gather, wanting to know what's going on. And emergency support starts to show up, and they start coming up with different ideas because the traffic is building up for blocks. And they tried to push the truck further in, and nothing happens. They all try to pull and muscle the truck back to no avail. And they came to the conclusion the best and only way to deal with this is to demolish the truck to free up the space so that all these cars could get through, right? It's rush hour. And at this point in the crowd, there's a 6-year-old, and the 6-year-old yells out, "Why don't you just let out some of the air out of the tires?" And that's exactly what they did. And they released some of the air in the tires. What happened to the truck? It no longer elevated, it brought it down, and then the truck was completely free. And, I bring this up to just remind you that sometimes it's the elusive obvious, right? The elusive obvious is, like, I don't happen to know what year toilets were invented, but I know for a fact that toilet paper didn't happen for a few more decades. Now, I don't know I don't even want to know, or don't even guess what people were doing in between that time, but toilet paper was kind of like the elusive obvious, if that makes sense, right? And so I think the elusive obvious in our world today that would make our lives easier. And that's a question I ask all the time. How do I make this more effortless? Like, think about the dominant questions of asking, how can I use this? Why must I use this? When will I use this? That's the formula for taking knowledge and turning into real power. Because the truth is, all the podcasts, all the books, all the online courses, none of it works unless we work. So the elusive obvious, just like letting some of the air out of the tires today, is learning how to learn. Right? An individual or organization's ability to learn rapidly and translate that learning into action, I could tell you it's the ultimate competitive advantage. If you've seen pictures on Facebook or Twitter or whatever, Instagram, I don't post a lot of them anymore, but just like pictures with me and Oprah and Elon or these individuals, Richard Branson, Will Smith, we bonded over books because leaders are readers. If somebody has decades of experience and they put into a book, and you can sit down in a few days and read that book, goodness, do you have an advantage. You can download decades into days. And how many of you would love to read? How many of you go out there and buy books and they just sit on your shelf? And it becomes shelf help and not self-help, right? That's challenging. And here's the thing, buying books is a different skill set than reading books. And a lot of us, if we're not good at something, we're not going to do it often. If I don't play golf really great, I'm probably not going to play very often, and that means I'm not going to get any better at it. And reading is the same way. Focusing is the same way. Remembering and studying is the same way. If you're not good at it, you're probably not going to indulge in it. And in psychology, they call it the confidence-competence loop. If you want greater confidence, it requires greater competence, right? And when you get skilled at something, it gives you competence. And when you are confident, you're going to do it more often, which gives you greater competence. And it's a self-fulfilling, replicating loop, right? Because of the feedback. And so remember this. And we have Jenna, we have Alexis, we have a number of people on our team right now who are answering your questions on Facebook in the app. And again, if you're just joining us, we put all this information. The one place to go is to go into our app. We have so many of you, countless of you in there that are just sharing your joy stories, how you're using these strategies. And honestly, I love our courses, and to spend 15 minutes with you every single day for 21 to 30 days to help you learn what you should have learned back in school, Memory 101, Speed Reading 101, Focus and Concentration 101, Study Skills 101. It's wonderful, but I think most of you get as much value from each other as you do from us. in there answering your questions. Just search my name in your app store and you could download it for free. And we're going to be adding memory assessments in there so I could quiz you. I'm going to show you a number of names, faces, and you're going to test you and see how well you do with names. We're going to be adding into it reading assessments. So I'm going to put together reading comprehension and rate your reading speed. And it's amazing. The Kwik Brain Universe. Jenna, thank you. So if you want to go there. So remember this. So 2 keys so far we've talked about. First is note taking and note making, capture, create. The second strategy or principle is paying attention, your observation. Remember, my fist went to my cheek and I said chin, and most of you did this instead of this, right? The art of memory is the art of attention. The third strategy I'm going to remind you of, and you might have heard me say this before, but remember what keeps us from mastery, call it whatever you want, expertise, your 10,000 hours, whatever, that level of proficiency, often is this thought that we know this already. I mean, how often do we say like, oh, I thank you for so many of you downloading this. I listened to Limitless on Audible. Marcy, thank you. That means everything. Remember, we donated 100% of the proceeds, hundreds of thousands of dollars to charity, everywhere from building schools, fully funded, $50,000 each, of Ghana, Guatemala, Kenya, Alzheimer's research for women. Women, did you know, are twice as likely to experience Alzheimer's than men? Twice as likely. Yet most of the research is done on male brains and treatments done on male brains. So in memory of my grandmother, who I lost when I was going through my learning difficulties. So we've learned more about the human brain in the past 20 years than the previous 2,000 years combined. When you hear, experts talk about neuroplasticity and neurogenesis, we thought that you were born with a certain amount of brain cells and that's it. But in actuality, neurogenesis, a neuro brain, right, in your nervous system, genesis, the beginning, birth, you can actually create new brain cells to the day you die. Neuroplasticity is saying your brain is plastic, like in a good way. It's malleable. That's why everything is possible, because these thoughts or feelings or behaviors, these neurons that fire together, they wire together. So it's so malleable. So the brain you have is more, if we were to scan your brain, it's as unique as your fingerprint, right? Because so you really are like a snowflake, and that's because you've had different experiences than the rest of us. And external experience, the way you create plasticity, is novelty, right? You go through your life and you have this different stimuli. And when you are forced to make new connections, your brain forms. So like, I have a thought, a positive, if you want to rewire your negative thoughts, part of how affirmations could potentially work is through repetition, right? That you have, let's say, I am statements everywhere, like I am limitless. Because if your unconscious is I am a procrastinator, or I am a smoker, or I am whatever, for me, I thought I was broken. That was my self-talk, because I remember when I was a child, a teacher said, that's the boy with the broken brain, right? And that label became my limit. And by the way, I don't think that teacher had malintent. I was being, as context, I was teased a lot for being slow growing up as a kid. And I remember I was slowing down the class. I wasn't getting the lessons on. I was, kids were, how kids are, right? And so I think the teacher was coming to my defense, but pointing out like, this kid's a little different. He had this accident years back and doesn't learn. That's why I couldn't read for like 3 extra years. And so I know what it feels like to feel insecure, to feel like you're not enough. And I also know the other side of it, right? Where you go below normal to normal to have this super brain, right? And where we are limitless is in our mind. There is no limit to your creativity. There is no limit to your imagination. And imagination, Einstein said, is more powerful than knowledge. And so my point here in having this connection with you is I want you to think of one thing you could do to have a better brain. Maybe it's adding the brain foods. What are some of the brain foods? Like from memory, I guarantee you, if you've listened to some of my work, blueberries, walnuts, here we go, avocados, right? Wild salmon, blueberries I call brainberries, spinach, right? Brainberries, Aaron, yes. Broccoli, great for your brain. Turmeric, nuts. See how you know this? Because the third principle I want to give you, besides note-taking and paying attention, the art of memory is the art of attention, is active recall, right? There's 3 parts to your memory. There's encoding, and then there's storage, and then there's retrieval. Those are the 3 stages of your memory. So if you want a better memory, there's only 3 areas that you can create change and transformation, right? And this is how winning is done. You either have to encode it better. Cinnamon is a great brain food. Black cumin seeds, great. Dark chocolate, amazing, right? Many of you, if you're not watching this on Instagram, if you're watching this in our app, which is the preferred place to engage with us. You notice I'm not as active on social media because I'm putting more than half my time inside of our app, because you could create your own social media profile there. You could connect with other people. We have a limitless book club, there also as well. So a couple people are saying that there is an approval process for the app. It is free though. Wild salmon and eggs, if your diet allows, absolutely. The choline in eggs is very good for cognitive health. Ginger, great for your brain. Avocado. Lion's mane, yes, I'll put that in. I'll make I have a brain powder that I make every single morning. I could throw in the brain powder into a smoothie, or I could put it into, make it with hot water, make it like a tea. Absolutely. The apps is amazing. Christina, love it. Thank you for your efforts. Appreciate you. But we're all doing this together, right? And what we were doing is we're creating an army of brainiacs, right? To people to love their brain again. Because if you love your brain, if you want to improve your self-esteem overnight, just study how your brain is, right? 87 billion neurons. Right, and each of these neurons has 10,000 potential connections. So the connections are more than there are stars in the known universe, right? And so you have this incredible capacity, that's here, that everything that's made by human beings came from the human mind, right? So the third key is active retrieval. If you want to get really good at your memory, it's not about consuming. Right? It's not about pushing information in. It's about pulling it out of yourself, right? Remembering who you are, right? To stop hiding and stop relying on this doubt. Right now is the time you want to be too determined to doubt, right? You want to be too optimistic to fail, right? A lot of people feel like we're living in this storm, but remember the warrior's quote, right? The warrior said, I am the storm. And there's certain things you can only learn in a storm. Let's get real, right? And sometimes storms come and they're coming to clear our path for things, to shake things up. And sometimes you need to have a breakdown to have a breakthrough. How many of you can relate to this, right? And it's not just you fake it till you make it. It's really you face it till you make it. And when you're facing something, neuroplasticity, it kicks in because it reorganizes in a way. Your brain... It's weird because your brain isn't really geared to set you up to win. In some ways it is, but it's really set up to keep you safe. And that's why our fear kicks in, right? Our amygdala, that almond-shaped part of our brain that gets hijacked by what's threatening, right? What is scary, and we start paying attention to the news all the time because if it bleeds, it leads, right? That's your survival. It's meant to keep you safe. And, taking risks is scary, right? We act like there's a saber-toothed tiger when there certainly isn't, right? Public speaking, you're not in any physical kind of danger, but that's the number one fear that there is. And I believe the number one fear in the United States is public speaking. Number 2 on a study I saw was fire. And number 3, death, right? And what's the joke? The joke is that if you're at a funeral, then most people would rather, be in the coffin than being the one that's delivering the eulogy. But that's not a rational fear. And I think that fear, according to using our limitless model, if you've read the book, fear is just a combination of mindset, motivation, and methods, right? And I think we did a podcast on how feelings are key for memory, right? Information by itself is forgettable, but information, when you add emotions to something, is absolutely unforgettable. And you feel that, right? You feel that. How many of you have a song you can listen to and it's just like your soundtrack and it just changes the way you feel? Or it could take you back to when you're a teenager, right? How many of you, maybe it's not a song, maybe it's a fragrance, or maybe it's a food, and all of a sudden you have it and it's like you could remember being a child, right? There's been studies where they'll take people and they'll take them through hypnosis. Have any of you experimented with hypnosis or self-hypnosis from a really good trained therapist? They'll take somebody through a process called age regression to the point where they'll, with over 90% accuracy, remember what day their 9th birthday fell on. I mean, isn't that amazing that the information is there? It's just that pulling it out is sometimes difficult. They'll stimulate somebody's brain during surgery, and your brain doesn't feel any pain, right? It doesn't have those neuroreceptors with the nerves, so it doesn't feel the pain. And they can actually stimulate different parts of your brain to the point where people could read signs, like when they were a kid off the side of the road, on trips they took when they were kids, family trips. So it's amazing how much information is here. By the way, out of your 5 senses, sight, hearing, touch, smell, taste, which one is the closest, most powerful when it comes to your memory? And this is the recall part, right? The recall. Smell, absolutely, smell. And it's very primal, right? Maybe because going back to as hunter-gatherers and our own survival, we need to be able to smell a rotten food or potential poisonous food or plants or something like that. And so, and there's certain smells that actually help stimulate your brain. Citrus smells, rosemary also as well. We talk a lot about this, using essential oils to help you to remember. By the way, another fun brain hack, I know we talked about a number of them, the power of observation, right? The power of active recall, pulling information out. That's why I ask you questions about what are the brain foods or which things, purposely, because, we're putting together a program on like quick teaching. And this is for you coaches out there or parents or educators there's a method for how we teach to make things stick. So many of you, we have one of the highest implementation and finish rates of our programs, because not only are you learning accelerated learning, we're doing it to you, right? I'm asking you in every single, if you've taken our course, and by the way, our team is asking me to remind you that today we're doing something very special. If you go to kwikbrain.com/recall, and it's also in my Instagram profile, maybe somebody could post it in the chat, kwikbrain.com/recall. We have a special enrollment for people enrolling today to our 31-day quick recall program. That's where you meet with me 15 minutes a day on your own schedule. And for those of you who join today, we're going to upgrade you automatically to lifetime access. And you'll notice, by the way, if you purchased this program 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 3 years ago, we upgraded you for free. So that's my commitment to you. I recently filmed a whole new program based on some of the latest research that I've found, working with people every single day of my life for the past 30 years in terms of, in the field tested what's really working. So we added a lot of fun things in like how to remember jokes. Like there's this very notable comedian that all of you probably have heard or watched their Netflix special, and they're using these strategies on how to remember their set for 2 hours. You ever wonder like how TED speakers or actors or comedians can remember like their whole set and not lose their place? And so we added some fun things in there that weren't in there before. So that's available. But the reason why we do these programs, that we do active recall in there, we also take advantage of another technique called the Pomodoro technique. What's the Pomodoro technique, everybody? And by the way, you'll see me drink some water. By the way, if you haven't been upgraded yet, this program is Quick Recall. It's brand new. Then you'll be getting the invitation to join the new course soon. All right, we're changing over old servers to this new program. Look how many of you know this. So this is active recall. They call it they call it retrieval practice. And so me asking you these questions, 25 minutes. Look how many people put 25 minutes. 100 of you put 25 minutes in the chat. Because a Pomodoro technique is setting a Pomodoro, in Italian, right? We're talking about a tomato. And why is it tomato? It comes from like a tomato kitchen timer that you might have in the kitchen to be able to time certain things that you're preparing. And so 25 minutes has been found to be a sweet spot, because after about 25, 30 minutes, like the attention span of like a sitcom on television, maybe, if you're watching Friends or Seinfeld, or I'm dating myself a little bit here. I don't really watch a lot of television, so I don't know what's like really brand new, but there's a dip in your concentration, your focus. And so I always recommend 25 minutes of study and take an active, like 5-minute break. And that's where actually you get to benefit from like this divergent thinking, where, you're 25 minutes, you're focused, your attention is there, you're studying, you're doing the deep work, right? And then for 5 minutes, not a 30-minute break, but for 5 minutes, you're doing 3 things. And what am I going to ask you to do during your brain break? What are 3 things I recommend? A circadian cycle. So that's an ultradian cycle. We're going to talk about 90 minutes. And then you can compound that, obviously, just over a 24-hour cycle. So we all have a 24-hour cycle we're working on, and that blends really well into sleep hygiene and naps. And that's why sometimes we take a nap and it's and sometimes it can make us tired, right? How many of you ever took a nap thinking that's going to energize you, and you actually get more feel like you're more exhausted? So hitting those times are important. But that's why one of the best ways of resetting and keeping your circadian cycle, your rhythm, well, and this, is to get direct sunlight first thing in the morning. Probably one of the most important things you could do for your sleep. By the way, because people are asking about sleep, because it's so important for your memory, like think about as hunter-gatherers before modern times, right? The 2 triggers that it was time to go to sleep are what? And what's the external triggers? It's that there's a drop in light and there's a drop in temperature. But in modern society, we don't get that unless we design it that way, because we could be exposed to light all the time, including our devices, right? You hear people talk about the blue light that comes from your screens, and that's why people use like Iris or Flux or some of these apps to pull some of that out, because it fools your mind into thinking it's still daytime, and you don't produce the melatonin, and melatonin helps you to relax and go to sleep, right? And so that's why we recommend getting off screens an hour before you go into bed. And having blackout curtains, right? That even some people get annoyed just having, how many of you, if you have a little bit of light from the hallway or from an alarm clock, it could keep you up, right? Some people are more sensitive, just like they're more sensitive to caffeine. That's why you don't have caffeine past 2 p.m. Because it could stay in your system, upwards of 8 hours or so. So some people like pitch black when it's that, but then also think about temperature also. If we have temperature control and it's always, a warm temperature in your environment, then we don't get that external signal to say it's time to go to sleep, right? And so that's why, we use our chili pad. How many of you have a chili pad or like a mattress pad that cools you down? That's why you take warm baths or warm showers before you go to bed, or an Epsom salt bath, because the magnesium is great. Let me just make sure I'm not frozen here. Sorry. The magnesium is great to help you to be able to relax. Those elements are very important. But also when you leave that hot shower or that warm bath, your core body temperature, what happens? It drops, right? And then that's a signal for you to be able to produce melatonin also as well. The morning is very different, right, Lydia? You do cold showers, and I know I lose a lot of fans that way. But sometimes to build your resilience, to build your grit, you have to do difficult things, right? Because if you do everything that's easy in life, easy is sitting on your couch, honestly, and binge watching. And no judgment, but then we can't complain about it, right? Because complaining, you can't be upset by the results you didn't get from the work you didn't do. Right. I don't want you to feel like you're a victim when you could own, because the responsibility that comes. Remember the story I tell when I picked up Stan Lee, and I'm a big Marvel fan, and we're going to dinner, and I ask him, "Who's your favorite superhero?" And without a pause, he says Iron Man, and he says, "Jim, who's your favorite superhero?" And who did I say? Who's my favorite superhero? Spider-Man, right? And because he had a Spider-Man tie. You know my stories, and we tell stories because I think the greatest coaches or teachers, they taught through stories and parables. Think about what a story has, right? You can see yourself inside of it. You can visualize and imagine it. It takes you along a journey, like your own hero's journey. And when I said Spider-Man, without a pause, he goes, "With great power comes great responsibility." Dr. Manhattan, Spike, that's good. With great power comes great responsibility. And truth be told, I maybe because of my traumatic brain injuries, I tend to reverse things. Even when I read, even when I hear something and I heard something different, I was like, you're right, Stan, with great power comes great responsibility. And the opposite is also true. With great responsibility comes great power. Because that's what I thought he said. With great responsibility comes great power. When we take responsibility for something, where our life is, like maybe our past shaped who we are, but we are 100% responsible for where our life is today, moving forward, then it gives us great power to what? To make things better. Like I don't know if you can see this in the top of my office. I have this portrait of Stan Lee. And I do that because sorry, I have like phones, like home studio here. I have this Stan Lee, and he gave this, it's made out of candy. It's a one-of-a-kind portrait of Stan, and it's made of like gumdrops and like these little sour things. And I put it in my office as a constant reminder to the godfathers of superheroes, because it just reminds me of that lesson. Like if I was to go back and talk to that 9-year-old boy that was just ridiculed and teased and just couldn't do anything, didn't believe himself, I would say you are 100% responsible for your life. Don't give that power away, that you are a thermostat, you're not a thermometer, right? We learn through metaphors. By the way, all learning is just connecting something you don't know to something you do know. Something on the outside, you're connecting it to the inside. If you're trying to coach your kids or coach your clients or even coach yourself, right? If someone's not getting it, most of the times we're trying to connect two ideas that are outside of us and they stay outside of us. But when you could connect something on the outside to something on the inside, then you have learning. You have neuroplasticity. You have, and that when you have a new thought or an aha, like through a metaphor, that's why we tell stories, or I say you're a thermostat, not a thermometer, because a thermometer just reacts to the environment, gives away its responsibility, just reacts. And we react sometimes to the weather. We react to the economy. We can react to how people treat us. That's an honest, truth. But the people who are most fulfilled, we have a podcast coming out next month with a friend of mine, Jen Lim, who was Tony Hsieh's partner in Delivering Happiness. She's the CEO of Delivering Happiness. She has a new book coming out all about like this, the delivering, like the pursuit of happiness, right? And by the way, Pursuit of Happiness was amazing, right? How many of you saw the movie with Will Smith? But in terms of happiness, those who are most fulfilled feel like they have agency and they are a thermostat, because a thermostat doesn't react to the environment. A thermostat, it knows what's going on. It gauges the environment intelligently. It knows the temperature, but what does it do? It sets a standard, it sets a temperature, and what happens is the environment reacts to it, right? So we are always at cause, right? And you don't want to, if you want to maintain your sovereignty, part of it is just realizing that there's an external environment and there's an internal environment, and we cohabitat here, and the external world affects our internal world, and our internal world could affect our external world. But when we start gaining personal strength and power and responsibility, we realize that we have more control than we realize sometimes. And I would always say control the controllables. When we put energy into like things that we can't affect, I'm not saying, and again, I can't rate in terms of what's important to you, right? You have to determine. But I always say whatever it is, the most important thing is to keep that most important thing. The most important thing is you set your thermostat, you set your goals, you set your KPIs, right? You set your vision, you set your mission, and then let the environment react to you, right? I think that's the ultimate flex, is you don't have to post, first of all, practice what you post, right? Because it's better well done than well said, but I feel like the world would be just an easier place if we just didn't say it, we showed it, right? If we didn't promise it, but we really proved it. Right, and that's living with integrity. Somebody told me recently, personal integrity, is measured by the distance between your lips and your life. I'll say that again. Your own personal integrity is measured by the distance between your lips and your life. And I believe that, again, the life we live are the lessons we teach. And I think that if you have people around you that you feel you want to change, it's really hard to change yourself much less change another human being. I think we can inspire people to change by being a good example for them, and they see you, because sometimes the people that we care about the most, sometimes they're the ones that we give up our power and our sovereignty to maybe pull us down. And they could have good intentions. They don't want you to get your hopes up. Why are you doing those? Someone's supposed to read those books and going to those events and listen to those podcasts all the time, but maybe they're fearful of losing you because you're growing, and they want to stay close, or they don't want you to get hurt. But people could be sincere, but they also could be sincerely wrong also as well. Is that true? And so sometimes, as we know, that that road is paved with good intentions, but we have to own responsibility. So you are 100% responsible for your life. So what are some of the things we talked about for improving your memory right now? Number one, we talked about the power of note-taking versus note-making, right? That's not just about consuming, it's about creating, capture and create. Number two, paying attention. And your focus is a muscle. It's use it or lose it. That's why we say don't touch your phone the first 30 minutes of the day, because before you input anything, get your mind right first, because unless you're controlling the input and you're listening to something that you trust, something that's going to inspire you, as opposed to reacting to things. Because if you're just going like this, you could, and this is ironic because I love technology because it allows this, right? We're inside our app, we're inside our Facebook group, we're on Zoom, we're on Instagram, right? It's amazing. Thousands of people just joining this conversation. We live in exciting times. Technology is a blessing. It's a magnifier, right? But if technology is using you, meaning you're picking up your devices out of habit unconsciously, right? Technology is a tool for you to use, but if technology is using you, then who becomes the tool? Right? Then we become the tool. And then how are you going to have this life that you're proud of and that you feel, because that's ultimately what we have, right? At the end of our lives, when we're taking our final breaths, none of other people's opinions, none of their expectations, none of your fears are going to matter. What's going to matter at that time is what? How you laughed, how you learned, how you loved, how you lived, right? And, this is not very motivational, right? But when we're in that box in the ground, I don't even believe I'm going there, but it's just, there should be some kind of urgency, right? That gets us over our own procrastination, that gets us out of our own way. That if you don't have reasons to do something, you're not going to get the result. And so it's that's where I'm saying begin with the end in mind. One of my favorite books was by a mentor of mine, Dr. Stephen Covey. How many of you know his book, this big book? What was it called? 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, right? One of the greatest, and one of them is sharpen the saw. So you should all sharpen your saw for focus, memory, speed reading, comprehension, study skills, because everything in your life gets easier. What do you want to learn? Math, money, marketing, management, martial arts, music, everything gets so much easier when you have these skills. But the other part of it, another habit of highly effective people, is beginning with the end in mind. You don't want to climb the ladder of success, as Dr. Stephen Covey says, and work really, really hard, get to the top and realize that the ladder was leaning on the wrong wall, right? So you want to begin with the end in mind also as well. These comments are amazing, by the way. Have kids age 5, twins or so because of language of my own. My lasting hope. How do you do this? So another strategy, and if you want me to walk you through these strategies, because everything that I mentioned, active recall, Pomodoro technique, active note-taking, building teams, because we create teams in the app where you could challenge each other. Because I think we should turn memory, we should gamify this, right? And up-level ourselves and fill in those gaps that maybe we didn't get the honor or the privilege of having back in school. I think the most important skill, emotional, social learning in school, and also meta learning. Meta learning is a science and art of learning how to learn, right? And another spike, first understand, then to be understood. Most people are trying so hard to be interesting. That's great that you skydive and swim with sharks or whatever is interesting, but being interested is so much more powerful than being interesting, right? When you have curiosity, like what if everyone did this? You have your to-do list. What if you also woke up before you touched your phone and just this is my to-be list for today. I'm going to be these 3 things, right? When you're faced with a decision, you're faced with a dilemma. Like maybe it's like you're faced with a decision. Like, do you want to join Martha? Yes, our courses are self-paced. So you could do it at your own pace. You could do it any time of day. And if you miss one, you could come back to it also as well and review it. And the great thing about it, because it's all on an app or on your computer, if you need to give a talk or like at work or something, you could listen to the episode on how to remember TED Talks, right? If you need to go and network because you're finally out there connecting, you could listen as a primer on your commute there on how to remember names and faces, right? So it's kind of like, memory on demand. And that's one of the big benefits. Or if you have a question on like, how am I going to memorize these physical equations, post it in the app and dozens of people will show you their ways of sharing the best things there. So all of that, by the way, again, if you're just joining us, is at kwikbrain.com/recall. When you join today, not only we get a special discount because it's kind of like our back to school and really life is our classroom, right? Life is our seminar. Life is our conference and our summit, right? But not only that, but we'll upgrade you to lifetime access and to the upgrades. Again, if you've joined our memory program in the past, before it was like a 12-week program, once a week for 12 weeks, when we updated it, we did 31 days, we upgrade all of you. So over the next couple of weeks, if you haven't been upgraded, send us a message on social media or info@Kwik Learning, and we'll make sure you get you upgraded also as well. Sarah, how do you learn a language? So another strategy you could do, you still use the focus techniques, the asking question techniques, the note-taking techniques, break it down into 25-minute Pomodoros. Remember, during the 5-minute break, do 3 things. Move. As your body moves, your brain grooves, right? As you move, you create brain-derived neurotropic factors, which is, which is like fertilizer for neuroplasticity. And also breathe and hydrate. Breathe and hydrate. You see me take multiple, now hydrate, everyone. Your brain is mostly water, 75% water. Just staying hydrated, it will boost your reaction time, your thinking speed, upwards of 30%. That's not even a small lift. That is a huge unfair advantage. Just staying hydrated, right? And with your water, you could add minerals to it, right? Electrolytes to it, a little salt, a little lemon, whatever you prefer. Another way of really maximizing this is using sense. If you want to learn a language or learning facts, figures, foreign languages, what if when you were studying, you had a unique perfume or a cologne or essential oil or a bubblegum? Chewing bubblegum actually helps with your cognitive performance. Did you know that? Now, I would probably get the natural stuff that you would find more at the health food store, but actually it helps to relax. It actually helps to stimulate your brain also as well, if that's something that you want to take advantage of. But if it's a unique taste or smell while you're studying something, and when you need to perform it, like let's say it's a speech or it's facts for a test, or maybe you have to go for your certified financial planning exam or your Series 7, any continuing education, then pull out that trigger again, wear that same perfume that you're using when you're studying, or that cologne, or that bubble gum, or that essential oil, and then it'll help bring back a lot of those memories. All right, so that's a little small. These, by the way, are tips. The 21 30-day training we have for our speed reading and memory courses that are discounted today is actual training. It's about how to make it a habit, right? But in our podcast, because I only have one shot with you in a podcast, or a Q&A, a stream of consciousness conversation between all of us here from all around the world, then it's then that's more tips. It's like a bite-sized digestible thing that you could do, but it doesn't mean you could do it all the time because you haven't trained it. And remember that quote, you don't rise to other people's expectations, you fall to the level of your training. You fall to the level of your training, right? And that's why taking a cold shower in the morning is difficult, but by doing difficult things, you get more comfortable being uncomfortable. And while the comfort zone is a nice place to visit, nothing grows in the comfort zone. Can we all agree on that? Right? Through struggle, you get strength. Through challenge, you get change. And when you're faced with a difficulty and a demand, maybe you don't want to ask yourself, what do I need to do? Maybe your question should be, who do I need to be? So what are 3 things that you are committed to being today? Because if you don't even have to manipulate your behavior, because if you're going to say, I'm going to be compassionate, I'm going to be loving, then your behavior takes care of itself, right? They say two of the most powerful words in the English language are the two shortest words. I am, right? Yeah, Dixon, you got it, right? I am, because whatever you put after that that's your identity, right? It determines, how you perceive yourself, right? And that's that incredibly powerful, force to remain consistent with how you perceive yourself, right? There's that quote where, what's the quote? It's, I am, I'm going to go through this. I'm not who I think I am. I'm not who you think I am. I am who I think you think I am. Unpack that. And so it's interesting. Part of success, I think, is having the curiosity to know who you are, right? That's why you go to therapy. That's why you maybe meditate. That's why you journal. Don's like, that hurt my brain. Curiosity to know yourself. But then once you know yourself, what the other part of the game? Not only having the curiosity to know yourself, it's having the courage to be yourself, right? Having the courage to be yourself. And that's a different game, right? And I saw this movie recently with Matt Damon, and it was We Bought a Zoo. And I don't think it was a really big movie. But there was this quote in there, and I love helping people remember lines and quotes, but it was like the power of like 20 seconds of insane courage, right, can completely change your life. And these decisions we make, our life is the sum total of all the choices we made up to this point. And the good thing is one choice, one step in another direction can completely change your destination, right? One step in another direction completely change your destination. In Limitless, there's a quote, I don't even have to look at it. Life is the C between B and D. Life is C between B and D. B stands for what? Birth. D stands for death. Life, choice, right? That's choice. At these difficult times can diminish us. These difficult times can define us, or these difficult times can develop us. Ultimately, we decide. So you're faced with these choices. Are you going to move forward when you're put under pressure, or are you going to scale back, right? And I feel like mistakes are okay because I think Seth Godin said, if failure is not an option, then neither is success. And so if you want to make a good choice, or if you're thinking about how do I change my life a little bit, know that you're not alone. And if you want to join us on this journey, I invite you to come and be part of our universe. It's a private community where we have all of our programs, 21 30-day programs, where I get to coach you every single day for 15, 20 minutes a day, like this, but very targeted towards languages, or remembering names, or changing your belief systems, right? Or mastering your habits, or overcoming procrastination. Everything is very designed in a very specific syntax, because there's a syntax or a sequence to success. Just like if you have a phone number, you could have this, just switch one number around and you're not going to get the same result. Just like if you're trying to crack the safe to success, if you change the numbers, you're not going to get the same thing. And so I would say that if there's one choice, maybe go to kwikbrain.com/recall, join us. There's 100% money back guarantee on this offer. So you could go through all 30 days if you're not blown away. By the way, again, how many people have gone through the program and believe in this program? That it was really life-changing for you. You could just put it in the chat. Yeah, so thank you. Yeah, I love you guys. Thank you for the kind words. And here's the thing, it's always there for you. And my thing is, I just want to be there for you, because I didn't, as good as my teachers were back in public school and when I was going, they didn't know how to help me. And I realized that it's not how smart you are, it's how are you smart. It's not how smart you are, it's how are you smart. And when you discover how you are, you're at your best, genius leaves clues, and we all have genius inside of us. No matter your age, your background, your career, your education level, your financial situation, your gender, your history, your IQ, that doesn't matter. Like 1/3 of our brain's potential is genetic, biological, but 2/3 is in our control. And it's wild, like what you could do to move the lever, and then you show up differently. Like when you know with 100% certainty that you are stronger than anything that you're facing because of your mind, and it's trained, and you have endurance, and you have strength, and you have flexibility, and you have clarity, life just gets a whole lot easier. And it's hard for me to explain. It's like trying to explain to somebody what a rose smells like or what a rainbow, looks like, who's never experienced those things. And I'm here to say you are the greatest project you're ever going to get to work on. You need to take time and make time to create magic, right? And there is a method behind what looks like magic to the outside world, and my mission is really unpacking what other people do that looks like genius and making it available for everybody, because we all could do these things. It's just for the longest time, these strategies either have been hidden or buried. And I'm not saying there's a big conspiracy keeping people from their power or what their potential is for control or anything else like that. I'm just saying that we have more power and potential than we even know how to be able to measure. And if there's a gap between where you are and where you want to be, specifically in your focus, your memory, your reading ability, your ability to solve problems, then there's real hope. But here's the thing: if we, how do I say this? If we don't change something, right, over time, then it becomes a choice. At least we can own that, right? If we don't do anything to change a situation, then it becomes a choice that we're facing, and we could either get bitter about it or we could get better. And maybe that, I don't know who I'm speaking to right now that's listening to this, but maybe now is the time, that it's gotten you to this point right now to where you feel prepared. Everything that happened to you right now has gotten to this point right now to get you to the next level. Because if there's a stone and you're a stone cutter and you're just hitting that spike with a hammer over and over and over again, right? And 100 times nothing happens, 200 times nothing happens, 500 times nothing happens, 501, bam, what happens? The stone just splits, right? And was it that last hit that did it? No, it was all those hits before that. But sometimes we don't see the change that's going on the inside. And, I doubt that this is the first book that you've ever bought. I doubt that our podcast is the first podcast you've listened to, or our course is the first course. But maybe like that one thing is that 501 hit, and then you get all the rewards, right? For those of you who are entrepreneurs, like you know this, you have to feed your business until it feeds you back. In the beginning, truth be told, you're grossly underpaid, right? But if you're consistent and you're always learning and you're working hard and you're going to be kind, right? Then all of a sudden eventually it switches, that your compensation, and it doesn't have to be just financial, it could be fulfillment, right? Is so much greater than before, because it's that whole idea, going back to that child, the 6-year-old that says, why don't you just let some of the air out? Like, success could be difficult and it can be simple and it can be hard at the same time, right? Life sometimes is messy, but when you take your mess and you turn it into your message, everything changes. So we're at the top of the hour. I want to thank everybody for tuning in on Instagram, unscheduled. And I want to thank everybody who's watching this at home. And my final words to you really is you've heard me say this, comparing your life to an egg. That if an egg is broken by an outside force, it ends. But if it's broken by that inside force, then life begins. And great things always begin on the inside. And you have greatness inside of you. You have genius inside of you. And when is now a great time to be able to let it out? So I'm your brain coach, Jim Kwik. If you'd like to go further, go into the links in my Instagram. We have a whole bunch of free stuff there. Also a link to the special if you'd like to join us at a big discount and just try it. And try for 7 days, 14 days, 21 days. Try for the whole 30 days. If you're not blown away by where your life is now, most people, they like overestimate what they could do in a day, but they grossly underestimate what they could do over like 30 days, right? And thank you for all the positivity. Thank you again. How can you help? Our mission is no brain left behind. I believe you change your brain, you change your life. I believe you change your brain, you change your world. So leaving a review on Amazon or on iTunes, your story makes the biggest difference. And we're collecting stories also as well. We want to train an army of you to be brain coaches. So I love you. God bless you. Thank you for being on this journey with all of us. And I'll talk to you soon. All right. Bye, everybody. Much love. So much love for you.